Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I just thought I'd return to you for this album review, and yes, this is my cat Titan, just so you know. So he's being a sweetheart. Um, but yeah, this album review today is for a new album review for Hot Milk's long-awaited studio album, Corporation Pop, that we've been waiting on since February. Now is the release time for this record. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for the 14 tracks on this 46 and a half minute record, um, and let you know my thoughts on what I think of Corporation Pop as a whole. So let's dive into this album review. Now it starts with the first track, How Do I Make the Devil Fall Asleep, which is a very good track, by the way. I think this did very well, for sure, with how Hannah and Jim's singing and Jim's screaming, and this was. And mostly with this track, it flowed very well as the intro track. It introduced the record very well in a strong way. That's what I appreciated about the first half of the record. Well, the first 9 songs were pretty strong, for sure. But other than that, um, yeah, I think it's a 5 out of 5 for this song. I really like the harmonizing from Jim and Hannah in this track. It did very well with their vocal harmonizing. So 5 out of 5. Insubordinate Angerland was one of the singles, the third single for this record. Found out that Where Does the Light Get In is not going to be on this record, unfortunately, and I wish it would have, because it probably would have saved this record, but I'll tell you why it could have saved this record as we get to the end of the review. But overall, I think with what I listened to for Insubordinate Angerland, strong track. I really enjoyed the breakdowns in this, and overall, Hannah's singing vocals and Jim's singing vocals and his screaming in the bridge with the God Save the King, Dose Me in Kerosene lyric was pretty good. I really enjoyed that moment in the track where he's screaming his lungs out, and it sounds really strong, and I dig it. So, 5 out of 5. The American Machine was the last single for this record, the fourth single, and it was the last one they were going to release until album release date for this record, of course, which this song came out June 16th or 17th. So I think it was the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, for the American Machine. But overall, when I listened to it on June 16th, I really enjoyed it. It was really good, and had a good time listening to this track. A little political, but it did very well. It was definitely on point with the drumming and guitar work, and Hannah's vocal sounded very strong, and so did Jim's screaming moments in the track, and just his singing too in the verses were pretty strong. 5 out of 5. Hell is on its way is a pretty good song. Has some electronic stuff in it, but it doesn't do too bad. But it's kind of a 2 minute and 12-second track that kind of goes somewhere, but it leads into the next track, which is one of the singles. But overall, 4.75 out of 5 for this 2 minute and 12-second track for Hell It's On is on its way. It's pretty good in its own way, just plays it safe from time to time. Swallow This, I almost said Shallow This, my mistake. Swallow This was the second single for this record. Very strong track. It took a little time to grow on me, this song, but it's probably one of the preferred tracks on this record, other than the last 4 songs on the record. But overall, I think this track worked for what it was going for, and the electronics and the drumming and guitar work did very well in this track, and Hannah and Jim's vocals did very well. Hannah comes in the chorus, but it sounds very strong, and she sings the second verse too. But other than that, this track did very well for how it sounded for the second single. 5 out of 5. Machine Elves was an interesting interlude track, but it wasn't terrible in any way, so I'd give this a 4.75 out of 5. I did enjoy this a little bit for an interlude track. It was pretty interesting, but it leads into the next track, which was the song we're going to talk about next. That's another personal favorite. But overall, 4.75 out of 5. It's only like a minute and 31 seconds for this song, so it's not very long of an interlude track. Chase the Dragon is my personal favorite track going into the next track, which was the first single. But you know what single that is. Um, but other than that, Chase the Dragon did very well with Hannah and Jim's singing vocals. And execution wise, this track pulled it off for what it was going for. So, 5 out of 5. The drumming and guitar work was really good, and the melody structure did very well. 90 Seconds to Midnight was the first single to announce this record's announcement, and was still a personal favorite track to this day. It's only 2 minutes and 36 seconds, but it did very well with the execution. So I enjoyed this. 5 out of 5. Definitely a personal favorite track, and definitely a fan favorite too for this song. So I really like this song with how Hannah and Jim's singing vocals and Jim's screaming vocals did very good too. So 5 out of 5. The Come Friendly Bombs part in the song was my personal favorite moment of it, and the TikTok on the Doomsday Clock with the VIPs of the Aftershock lyric was another good one where he repetitiously sings it twice, but it did very well for the execution of this track. Sunburn from Your Bible is a very strong track too. I really dig this one as well. I think Hannah's singing in it from time to time is pretty good, and just Jim's singing and screaming moments in it are very good. So I had a good time listening to this track too. As the ninth song on the record, it did very well. So 5 out of 5 for this one too. Then we get to Warehouse Salvation, which is a very electronic track that I just don't know how I feel about it, honestly. It's above decent, but it could have been a lot better. It's like, where did the momentum go with the first 9 songs? And that's what was disappointing about the last 5 tracks on the record. Like, they kind of just threw it in there and basically, this is what you're getting, and sorry, we did the best we could with what we got for this. So, yeah, 4.25 out of 5 for Warehouse Salvation. Too much electronics in this track. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was kind of cringy at times, so yeah. Sediments is a good song, but it just relies on electronics for this interlude track going into the next track. But it's only a minute and 54 seconds. But it's alright for the runtime. It works in its own way. 4.5 out of 5. Asphyxiate, or however, asphyxiate is how you pronounce it, I think. I might be mispronouncing it, I don't know. Asphyxiate. It's really hard to say that word sometimes. But you know what word I'm saying. It's not a bad track, but it's good in its own way. So another 4.5 out of 5 for this one. I had a few critiques with how the track was overall sounding, but I think Hannah and Jim's vocals worked to an extent on this track. But execution-wise, it's kind of, it's alright. Then we get to Payment of Pain, and that's going back into the electronic club dance music. It's like, what the fuck are they doing for the last few songs? It's like, this didn't have anything I was very interested in. No drum work, no guitar work, just electronics and Hannah and Jim singing, and it's like, where is this album going for the last 5 songs? So that's what I was disappointed with. So 4 out of 5 for Payment of Pain. It's decent, but it's not anything I'm going to come back to that much. Then we get to Sympathy Symphony, which is a good song to close out the record, but it's not a song I would consider to be my favorite until the ending. The ending is the strong highlight to the record. The strongest part, like the second half gets a little better. Like around 3 minutes and some seconds, it starts getting very good with the drum work and all that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you should have done that through the whole fucking track, but okay. But it's overall 4.5 out of 5 for Sympathy Symphony. It's a good song, but it's just, I don't know, it has its missed moments. Quite a bit of missed moments in this track. But execution-wise, it played it safe. So overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I gotta say, Corporation Pop was an album, was something for sure. Was it something good? Not really, but it was average. It will be on my decent to good albums of 2025. I was very disappointed with the last 5 songs on the record because that's where it took its downfall. It headed down for a downfall for the last 5 songs. Like Warehouse Salvation was not one of my personal favorites. Payment of Pain was the least favorite too. Then you have Sediments, Asphyxiate, and Sympathy Symphony being the weakest. Like I was saying at the moment where I said, where does the light get in? That should have been the song on this record to save this record. Maybe if they threw in some hard-hitting tracks for the last few songs, I mean, maybe one song would have been fine for an electronic track. And I would have been like, okay, that was the least favorite, but that's fine. But they kind of went with it for the last 5 songs. Asphyxiate did have some drumming in it, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't one of my favorites. But I think the record took a big downslide with the last 5 songs, and it really ruined the reception. So if I were to give Hot Milk's Corporation Pop a score, it's going to get a 7.5 out of 10. It's average. I mean, the first 9 tracks are pretty strong. But after that, it just goes into a big, like, what the fuck moment. Like, what were they thinking for the last 5 songs? And it really disappointed me because I was really hyped to listen to this album, and I was left in slight disappointment, but I thought it was average. So it could have been a lot better. But this would have been on my best albums if the last 5 tracks didn't kind of almost suck. So, yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for Hot Milk Corporation Pop. I gotta say, I will return to 9 of the tracks out of 14 of the songs, but I think Where Does the Light Get In would have been one of the saving graces for this record. And would have made it sound good, even if it was a closing track. That would have been fine. That would have saved the record. Like, Sympathy Symphony would have been fine as the closing track if they decided to go with it, but wasn't a strong closing track, honestly. I think they just went with the last 5 tracks and it just didn't do so well reception-wise. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this very lengthy album review this afternoon, and thanks for watching. 7.5 out of 10 for Corporation Pop by Hot Milk. Thanks for watching the review this afternoon.